Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Great to be together. Happy snowy weekend.
It was pretty though.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So slowly.
So gorgeous. Kind of like we talked about it being kind of like a snow globe
Everything looked
outside.
good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we are continuing our journey through. This is week 4 of our 6-week journey through Epic. And last week we looked at Act 1, where we talked about in the beginning, but the beginning before the beginning. Before God created the heavens and the earth, God always was. He is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. We talked about how God is, from the very beginning, triune. One God, 3 persons, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And John, in his video, talked about God being like a heroic fellowship from the very beginning. How does that kind of affect the way that you think about who God is?
I knew about the Trinity, but it really put more emphasis on the fact that God has communion within.
Yeah. That God is essentially relationship.
Mm-hmm.
That from the forever. The Alpha and the Omega. He's always been.
And before.
Yes.
Before the world.
Yeah, before the world began. So the book of Genesis starts, in the beginning when God began to create the heavens and the earth. But there was so much more before that. So today we're diving into the second part of the 4 acts in this epic tale. And it's where things, because in any good story, things start off good and then something goes terribly wrong. And so this week we're looking at the entrance of evil. Let me grab the light there.
Story has a villain. This is just huge. I can't overestimate.
So if you're watching from home, this Act 2 you can find on wildatheart.org. Click the little search magnifying glass and type in epic and you'll find it right there. So what did this episode kind of stir in you? What did it make you think about?
So he's a good storyteller, but that story he told, I know somewhere in the Bible, and I'll get there if I can keep up with your challenge. And I know it said that the devil was Lucifer was an angel, but all that other stuff, the battle of a third of the angels, I don't remember that, and maybe it was just
Yeah.
where did that come from? Is that just a good story, or is that scripture based?
So the long extended quotation that he had was from Milton's Paradise Lost, which is this epic poem about the fall of humanity. And it begins with Satan, Lucifer, going from being the one in charge of all of the angels to being the one who betrays them and lures a third away, and this great war in heaven. So we're not given a really clear picture of that in Scripture, just hints at it, because the Bible begins with, in the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth. We're only given little glimpses of what came before that. And John's point is, well, we have an enemy. We have this one who is not God, but has rebelled against God from before the creation of heaven and earth. So, one of the places that we know that there are angels. The book of Hebrews talks a lot about angels, and shows how Jesus is better than all the angels. But then we know also that we have an enemy, the evil one, that seeks to lure us away. Where in Scripture have you heard echoes of this story?
I thought there was a place in the Bible, I can't recall where, but that Lucifer did take some angels with him.
Right, right. So one of the places that it talks about that is in Revelation 12. So if you happen to have a Bible with you, you can take a look at that, or I can read a little bit of that. But in Revelation 12, there's this very interesting picture. A sign appeared in heaven. A woman clothed with the sun, the moon under her feet, on her head a crown of 12 stars. She was pregnant, crying out in birth pains, and another sign appeared in heaven, a great red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his head 7 diadems. His tail swept down a third of the stars of heaven and cast them to earth. So that's a picture of the 1/8 of the angels being swept and cast down. The dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, so that when she bore her child, he might devour it. And she gave birth to a male child, one who is to rule all the nations with a rod of iron. But her child was caught up to God and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness. So, really interesting. It's hard to pin down who is the woman. When did this happen? What's that?
Mary?
It could be Mary. It could be Eve. It could be that it's a picture of all of God's people. It's a sign which points towards something else. And then we hear, now war arose in heaven, Michael and his angels fighting against the dragon. And the dragon and his angels fought back, but he was defeated, and there was no longer any place for them in heaven. The great dragon was thrown down, that ancient serpent who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. He was thrown down to earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. And I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, now the salvation and power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ have come, for the accuser of our brothers has been thrown down. And they, therefore rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. But woe to you, O earth and sea, for the devil has come down to you in great wrath, because he knows that his time is short. So, that gives us a greater perspective. What do we learn from that story in Revelation 12?
When it said the devil has come down to us, it sounds like he's up in the sky in heaven.
He had been.
We always think of the devil as.
Yeah, we think the ancient way of understanding the universe was that you had the earth, and then you had this dome, and there were lights set in the dome, and the dome rotated, and all the water, there must be storehouses of water and snow up above the dome, and then when you die, where does your body go? into the ground, and so down is bad and up is good. So heaven is up there and hell is down below. But yeah,
Yeah, your body goes in the ground, but your soul goes up.
right. So
What are you saying about the dome, that that's what people used to think?
right.
Okay.
Yep. That was the early concept of heaven, and that's where we kind of get that idea of up is good and down
Yeah,
is
it's
bad.
in Genesis, because it has to do with the watering the earth.
Right. So it's talking about Lucifer being thrown down to earth with his angels. He's been cast out of heaven, cast out of God's presence.
Where's the word Lucifer in the Bible?
There's a few different places. That's a good question.
That sounds like an easy name.
Yeah. Although Lucifer, I think he talked about that. That word actually means son, son of the morning. Yeah. Because he wasn't bad to begin. God didn't create him bad, but he turned. So at some point he rebelled and turned against God.
Makes you wonder how evil got into heaven in the first place.
Yeah. Why God allowed it.
Mm-hmm.
God's all powerful. Why He even allowed it?
Yeah. And that's something that's a mystery to us.
To give us a choice.
Well, were the
Right.
angels with God when he created, were they there before? Because it never
No.
says God created the angels. So were
Well,
they
but he
there?
must have.
He must have.
Yeah. So there's a passage in Ezekiel 28 that talks about this one that rebelled. It says, "You were the model of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God." And it talks about, every precious stone adorned you. On the day you were created, they were prepared. You were anointed as a guardian cherub. And, again, not the cute little baby-faced cherubs, but the mighty cherubim. For so I ordained you. You were on the holy mount of God. You were blameless in your ways from the day you were created till wickedness was found in you. So there was an angel that turned away, that had, so we're not given a great description of it. So Milton, when he wrote Paradise Lost, used a lot of creative imagination to describe, what this battle must have been like, raging across heaven. That a third of the angels rebelled, but were defeated and cast down on earth. And that message in, that passage in Revelation 12 gets us to think the reason that evil rages so fiercely is because it knows that its time is short. It's a cornered animal. Any of you ever battled a raccoon or a skunk or something that was cornered? How did it go?
Yeah, like Glenn, the 22
shot
was
him.
mirrored.
Yeah.
Yeah, they show you all their dental work.
You hesitate to shoot a skunk, believe me.
Oh yeah, that's not good. There's an after effect.
Mhm. Our family always likes to watch Elf, the movie, at Christmas time, and there's this scene where Buddy the Elf is making his way from the North Pole down to New York City,
Oh, yes.
and he comes across a raccoon on the trail. He's like, "Oh!"
Someone needs a hug.
Somebody needs a hug, and the raccoon goes.
What's
He's
more
like,
fun
"Oh,
is
let me
when-
give you a hug," and then there's fur
Pastor,
flying.
what's more fun is when you run into people who come from countries where they don't have skunks. And they think this is cute and they
Oh,
want to
cute
take a
little
picture
cat.
of this
Let's
kitty.
go pet it. Watch out.
Don't pet anything you don't recognize.
That happened when I worked at the hotel and I was doing and they didn't, only one person in the family understood English.
Mhm.
And I was trying to persuade them, that's not a cat, get away
Right,
from
right.
it.
Yeah. Well, same thing with angels. I mean, what's the typical way that people think about angels, or that we, you know?
Little wings on them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wings, a little baby-faced, you know, about as intimidating as the kids at the preschool.
How do people get that thought? Like,
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
Middle
You know,
age art.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, was it Raphael?
Raphael.
Yeah,
It was.
but
how did they get that though?
I don't know, it doesn't
Yeah.
make sense, because nothing in the Bible,
There
like,
must have been
ever,
some distance
ever
from
says
that.
like, maybe they thought like, oh, angels are good, they're on our side,
Mhm.
they're innocent, they're sweet little, I
Right.
just-
And a lot of times people have this misconception that when you die you become an angel, you know, or you have a guardian angel who watches over you, and you know the pictures are all of these beautiful women with long flowing hair and wings that are, you know, looking out over the children as they're stepping across the bridge.
like cringy. Well, okay, so is any of that scriptural at all?
So, Scripture does talk about He will command His angels concerning you to watch over you in all your ways.
But like,
But-
someone dying, becoming an angel, and.
Yeah, that's not.
There's so many people that believe in angels. I mean, like, I've run across people that actually have housefuls of angels.
Oh, yes.
For what? Because to them, it's a major
It's a
source
comfort.
of comfort.
Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. And I think maybe that's
angels.
why people started thinking that, you know, when you die you become an angel, because
I think so.
that's a comforting thing, that, oh, now this, you know, loved one is watching over me and is my guardian angel.
Yeah, but it says in the Bible point blank that there's a difference between we are heirs with Christ and the
Yes.
angels are a little lower.
Right, right. You
So
know, it
there's a
says that
difference.
even though, you know, these angels are described in terrifying terms, that any person who has actually met an angel has been scared out of their minds.
Look at the
But yet
shepherd.
lots of
The
times
first thing in the
they're-
Bible is fear not.
Yes.
But lots of times they're predicted like angels unaware, like the angels that came to Abraham. All said they
Right.
were men, they were human
Yep, yep.
forms.
So angels are not people who have died. They are these incredibly powerful, majestic beings that God created. And there's many different kinds of angels that are described in Scripture. The cherubim, the cherubs, are the ones guarding the way to Eden. Yes?
So do loved ones like, you know, like watch over you, but just like not in angel form?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that, there's
You don't-
a difference.
Yeah, you
We
don't.
just
You
don't
don't
know.
become. Yeah, we don't know. When we know that when we die, as Christians, we are with Christ. You know, and that's all we really need to know.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's so easy to adopt any idea that's comforting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you just want to believe anything that gives you still a connection with the person that you've lost.
Right.
So I get why our society is so, like, all these ideas have become just normal,
Mhm.
you know, acceptable things to believe.
Yep. Yep.
I don't
It's in
know.
your
And maybe there's
story.
not that much harm in some of it.
It's in your story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
I kind of have noticed, or in my opinion, when I saw The Lion King once, I don't remember much about it, but I do remember The Lion King saying, or maybe people on earth or wherever it was, he's watching over us.
Mhm.
And I have an idea that that has influenced people's thinking, because
Oh, yeah.
before this, I never grew up and I never heard people say he's watching over me
Hmm.
when they're talking about their parents or somebody that died. And I really think that the movies have had some influence in making people think, well, he's up there watching over me, where I always think, I hope they didn't see this.
Yeah, right. Yeah, did they see everything?
Right.
Yep. Yep.
Or you can even attribute it to the fact that people that have lost a pet, they are totally sometimes not saying, you know, whatever your idea is, but they're totally convinced that their cat or dog or whatever is watching over them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you see, I know in Italian culture, if you see red cardinal in your tree, which I did, I saw the male and the female in my front tree one time. Never saw cardinals before or after. I was told that's your parents that were checking up on you. So I
Yep.
mean,
I see
Yep.
them periodically.
there you go.
Oh.
Mom and Dad are
But then the
checking
blue
on you.
jays chase them away.
Yeah. So, how have you typically heard people talk about, or in popular culture or whatever, the devil?
He has horns.
Uh huh. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like when I was growing up,
His horns and spikes, yeah.
my our team mascot for my high school was the Washington Demons.
Oh.
You can
Yeah.
just imagine what the symbol was, you know, guy with the
Oh, red
horns
eyes, yeah.
and the
Yeah.
tail
Devil rays
and
years ago.
you know pitchfork.
The Devil Rays years ago, Tampa.
Uh-huh.
And then they changed that name.
Yep. Yep.
And there's the old Flip Wilson line, the devil made me do it.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't
Uh-huh.
even sound that like scary. I
Yeah.
mean, when you just think like of
Right.
a little animal with a little pitchfork running
Uh-huh.
around, you're like,
or
"Oh,
you've got
shit."
the little angel on one shoulder and the little devil on the other side trying to get you to do the wrong thing. But our foe is not just this little guy in tights. He is the foe of God. He's the thief. He's the accuser. He's the one who seeks to steal, kill, and destroy.
Liar.
Yeah, he's the
You know,
father of lies.
My
Scripture
grandparents,
says.
they would always say, watch what you're doing because the devil will come like a thief in the night, and
Mm.
he has a short time that he knows he can do his
Mm-hmm.
bad work.
He's a
to
cornered
convince
animal.
You, right.
Yeah.
And he
So
makes it
be
look so
careful.
nice.
Yes.
He
Oh,
makes it look
yes.
so nice.
Oh, yes.
And tempting.
Mhm.
And tempting. yes.
Mhm.
How does he know us personally so well to know
Yeah.
what things, to plant in our minds that will scare us, or
Yeah.
like really how?
He was second in command years before he
Right.
dropped.
Right.
He
He's
had
here all the
lot
time,
of
God
power.
hasn't
And he
convicted
has
him of it.
lots of minions.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Pride,
But yeah,
jealousy.
it seems like he's so crafty that he seems to know exactly what's going to trip our trigger, what's going to, really scare us, harm
Doesn't it say
us.
in Genesis that the serpent was the slyest or craftiest animal?
Mhm. Right. Yep. Yep. So, too many people don't take the existence of the evil one seriously. And because of that, a lot of times they blame God for all the bad stuff in their lives.
They're like, why isn't God like making this better? That was the most profound thing I got from this today was
Yeah, me too.
because I know there's a lot of people. I've even talked with people that say they're Christians that don't think the devil is real or
Right.
that hell exists or
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
if you don't or you don't take that seriously at all, it's true that anytime anything bad happens, it's easy to just say, why God?
Mhm.
I mean, God is like he just is good. Like he only creates good things,
Right.
and he's not controlling though. Like he leaves it up to us, like our choices in life,
Mhm.
But it's Satan that like manipulates us,
Mhm.
and we don't really think about Satan as being like we know that Satan is bad, but yet we still like think that it's God's fault because he isn't making it better.
Mm.
And we just forget that like he's an authority, but he doesn't turn us into robots.
Right. Right.
The
Yep.
devil works in the shadows. We don't see him as being out in the open.
Yeah, yeah. I actually had a class in seminary that was all about the demonic in Christian thought. And it was taught not by a theology professor, but by a history professor. And he traced all of the different traditions that there have been over the centuries about Satan, Lucifer, the devil, the accuser. And it was fascinating to hear and read about all these different traditions. A lot of them who you would feel like, oh, that's horrible, like the Salem witch trials and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the reality is we do have an enemy, and he is a slick, twisted, diabolical, creative, but not in a good way, if that makes sense. He does whatever he can to undermine our faith, to tear us away from God.
Our souls are so precious.
Mm-hmm.
That God is fighting for it. And the devil
Absolutely.
is coming hard.
Absolutely.
That's hard.
Yep, yep. We need to understand, the heart of this episode was we need to understand that we are in the midst of a battle. Our souls are being fought over. Our world is being fought over. And when we recognize that, suddenly a whole lot makes a whole lot more sense.
It's like diddling nightshade underneath an evergreen or a shrub. You have to keep after it constantly, even though you pull it all out. There's always maybe one little piece of the root that you didn't get. You got to keep after it in order to get rid of it, so it doesn't take the whole plant over.
Well, you can even attribute the fact of our indigenous people, Native Americans, they had the medicine doctor to ward off evil spirits. Or
Yeah.
during medieval times,
Even
you
they
put candles in
recognized.
your window so the evil spirits wouldn't get in your house.
And to this day, there's quite a few in the reservation that still believe in it. There is.
Yep. So, C.S. Lewis said that the greatest accomplishment of Satan in the 20th century was to convince people that he didn't exist. Because then it's so much easier for him to deceive.
Satan ritual is always here.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's kind of hard for us to picture the devil because he isn't just a little cherub in pitchforks and horns.
Right.
He's the great evil force.
Yep.
And very few people can deny that there's not evil in the world.
Right.
So then how to picture that, it's in millions of forms, right?
Yeah,
I was gonna
yeah.
say, it
So-
doesn't help either when you see these, scary movies where you've got the name of Lucifer right as the title of the movie,
Yeah.
or you've got it as the main character that they're gonna be attacking all these innocent people.
Yeah. So every story that we tell tends to have a villain. And it's because our world has a villain. Yeah.
Maybe why we kind of forget that there's a villain is because in every single story that we read, the villain is an actual person, a
Right.
physical person or thing that you can see, But Satan takes up I don't know. To things like advertisements even, or
You can appear in all different ways.
yeah,
Right.
and
Right.
and you just think of oh that's so and so, and that's just that,
Right.
but it's him. He's just a completely different type of villain.
Yep. So what we have to be careful of is that we don't identify Satan with a particular person. That term to demonize someone, that's what we tend to do. Is when we have an adversary, we tend to paint them in the worst possible light, and act as if they are the devil incarnate. They're not the enemy. We have to realize, like Paul says, our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the powers of this present darkness, against the heavenly forces of evil.
Could
Yeah.
As we're looking over the villain, could that partially be from media's tendency to now, villains in like movies when I was a kid were always very dark and they were evil.
Right.
Now they're misunderstood. Darth Vader was a villain. Now he's a confused kid that got corrupted. Maleficent, or the Wicked Witch in Wicked. They're misunderstood now instead of actually being evil.
Right.
Taking away, how bad they really are.
Yeah.
Diminishing them.
Or, like, villains, like, they were originally good people that turned evil, like
Right.
Darth Vader, he was originally a good person. So he had those good roots, and at the end, he turned back good.
Right.
At the very end of
Right.
episode
Lucifer do
6.
that? Could Satan do that?
Yeah, could he go back to his good roots, like?
It's that's not where the story's headed. At the end of Revelation, Satan and all of his minions are destroyed, cast into the lake of fire.
Because they don't want to change.
Yeah. It's like God in the end gives everyone what they truly want. If they don't want to be with him, don't want to live under his rule, the end result is kind of an eternal quarantine. Destruction.
So there's no snakes in heaven, right?
That is good.
Yes, they do some good things.
Yeah, they do take a lot of bugs and stuff.
Yeah.
But at the end it tells you that the lion will lay next to the lamb. So there could be a snake laying there, but
Well,
he's not
and
gonna
that the
be no
child
problem.
will put its hand on the cobra's den.
So there will
They
be,
will
but
not
there
harm
won't
or
be- there
destroy
won't be
in
a
all
problem.
my holy mountains.
There won't be a problem.
Yeah. We're looking forward to the day when evil is defeated forever. But right now, he rages fiercely because he's a cornered animal. He's been cast down on earth. So you can think of it kind of like the time that we live in is when the battle has been won through Christ, through his suffering and death and resurrection. And now we're in the mop-up operation. It's like after D-Day, everything was in motion, and it was after that day, it was inevitable that the Allies were going to win. But right now, we're still in the thick of it. Our lives are being fought over. And the more that we recognize that, the more easy it is for us to resist.
Look at what goes on in the colleges nowadays. What's taking place there, even the professors.
Mm-hmm.
It's unbelievable what they
Yep.
teach to the kids.
Yep. We tend to switch evil for good, or pretend that evil is good.
So when we recognize it and call it out, and what does the Bible say about covering that with the name of Jesus and what has to happen?
Yep.
Like
That
when you
we
when you
resist not in our
recognize-
own strength, but we are called to resist. There's a teaching, kind of circulating around the church that we shouldn't fight back or resist the devil, but that we're putting too much emphasis on Satan in that way. But in James and in 1 Peter, we are commanded to resist Satan. Ephesians 6 talks about putting on the armor of God because we will be doing battle with the enemy. And so we're called to stand up and to recognize who the true enemy is and resist him through the power of Christ.
Where does it talk about those evil spirits have to flee when you stand, like when you, like I just know I've dealt with fear a lot in my life, and I remember in my early 20s when I lived alone and in a house, you know, and I would like literally before I went to bed I would stand in the middle of the living room and say out loud, like, in the name of Jesus, nothing bad can happen here. No one can step foot on my property without my permission. Like I would just like speak, just trust in Jesus that my house and I would be safe all night long.
Yeah.
And I really believed, but there's somewhere in Scripture that talks about.
Resist the devil and he will flee from you. That's
Yeah.
1 Peter.
Okay.
Yep. There's all sorts of different places
But
that
it was
talk
at
about
the name of Jesus specifically.
Mhm.
Is there-
Well,
can you
at
think
the
of-
name of Jesus, every knee will bow.
Yeah.
Heaven and on earth.
Yeah.
Under the earth. Huh.
I also slept with my car beeper next to my bed so that I could make my car horn start at night just in case.
All right. So next week we are going to be looking at part 4, and where we enter the story. And so every story has a villain, including yours. And too often we live as if we don't have a villain. But God's intentions for us are good. If we want the life that God wants for us, we have to fight. So that next week is the battle for the heart.